Hello everyone and welcome to Africa's Craziest, where we bring to you the good, the bad, and the outrageous insights about Africa. In today's video, we are taking a look at 5 reasons why recent military coups are successful in Africa. Before we get started, kindly click on the subscription button and notification bell to be notified each time we put up a new video. Also remember to like, comment, and share if you find the video interesting. There have been 9 attempted or successful coups d'état in Africa since 2020. A stereotypical coup d'état involves the most senior members of the military, i.e., generals, overthrowing the government in a short, but potentially violent, incident that causes mass panic in the population. The most recent coups in Africa differ in some key aspects from the coups that were seen on the continent in the past, especially during the immediate post-independence period. What are these differences, and what do they mean for democracy? It seems that a new model of coup is being established, which differs in key ways compared to what has gone before. Coup leaders have been slightly younger, the coups have been less violent, and in some cases they have occurred with popular support against a background of political stagnation and intense security challenges. The type of foreign involvement in these coups also appear to be changing, but this is more difficult to confirm. Younger leaders. The age of the coup leaders has been a remarkably consistent element of these most recent coups. With the exception of Sudan, the coup leaders have ranged in age from 34 to 41. They have also been lower in rank than most coup leaders, and have come mostly from special forces units, including 2 colonels, a lieutenant colonel, and a captain. This growing dynamic is certainly not completely unprecedented. Jerry Rawlings was a 31-year-old flight lieutenant when he led his first coup attempt in Ghana, and Teodoro Obiang Nguema Umbasogo was a 37-year-old lieutenant colonel when he seized power in Equatorial Guinea. The latter example also highlights a potential negative implication of this element of the current wave of coups. The leaders may try to stay in power for a very long time. Minimal violence, popular support. The next 2 changed coup dynamics we highlighted are interrelated, their relatively non-violent nature, and the support, or at least lack of opposition, they have had among the general public. So-called bloodless coups are a well-established concept, but this is a notable commonality among the recent coups in Africa where, unlike before, incumbents have not been brutally assassinated and the ensuing death toll pales in comparison to previous coups. Compare, for example, the many people killed in the coups in Ghana in 1966, Equatorial Guinea in 1979, or Guinea-Bissau in 1998. Most of the recent coups have taken place in contexts where political violence, particularly in the form of long-running conflicts with jihadist insurgents, has been common. The non-violence of the coups thus stands in some contrast to the broader political context and may also relate to the level of popular support that some of these coups appear to have enjoyed. For example, some analysts have suggested that the coup in Mali in 2020 came as a relief to many people, 82% according to Afrobarometer, who had lost faith in the leadership of President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta. Others have argued that the sanctions imposed after the 2021 coup in Mali actually increased support for the coup leaders. Similarly, the January 2022 coup in Burkina Faso, the 5th in a decade, which saw the ousting of President Roch Kabore, was also hailed by large and mostly youthful crowds as what we want. Changing foreign connections. At the same time, while many coups throughout history have involved foreign involvement, real or alleged, the complex relationships between governments, coup leaders, and foreign mercenaries give the foreign element in recent coups a different significance. The growing involvement of the Russian mercenary organization Wagner in North and West Africa has been well documented. The realignment of countries such as Burkina Faso and Mali, shifting from France to Russia as a source of military support, is certainly significant at least for the prospects of a return to civilian rule. While France could be expected to exert some pressure for democratic governance, Russia has no such interests. Near-term outlook. None of this suggests that coups are becoming more acceptable. The African Union, AU, and the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, have both been firm in their responses to coups. International organizations have also condemned these anti-democratic interventions in the political system. For the first time in history, the AU had 4 countries simultaneously suspended for unconstitutional changes of government, UCGs, and is currently reviewing its sanctions regime and enforcement mechanisms to deter UCGs. Furthermore, unlike before, the AU now has a more predictable post-coup transition pathway which often culminates in the conduct of democratic elections. However, the involvement of military leaders, in some cases, Mali, Chad, Burkina Faso, etc., as interim transition leaders, generates controversy regarding the AU/regional bodies' firmly established zero-tolerance policy for coup or military involvement in politics. While pragmatic, this type of transitional power can be seen to legitimize the actions of the coup leaders. Neo-colonial arrogance. What explains this paradox? How is it that a president more concerned for Africa than most recent predecessors, and more aware too of how the continent is changing, encounters a level of French unpopularity not felt for decades? Certainly, Mr. Macron's self-confident critics would say arrogant personal style is a factor. He has made his share of diplomatic blunders. After 13 French troops died in a helicopter crash in Mali in November 2019, he demanded that West African leaders fly to France for an emergency summit, an outburst perceived as neo-colonial arrogance, particularly as Mali and Niger had suffered far heavier recent military losses. President Macron was forced into a rapid course correction, flying to Niamey, Niger's capital, to pay his respects to the Nigerian military dead and postponing the summit until January 2020. But the causes of France's current discomfort also extend back to decades before Mr. Macron's election in 2017. During the early post-independence decades, France maintained a dense web of personal connections with African leaders and elites dubbed Francafrique, which too often slid into a mutual protection of vested interests, with little regard for human rights or transparency. Among outside powers, Paris was far from alone in colluding with dictatorial allies, but its relationships were particularly close and unquestioning. Overall, the changing nature of the coups that we have identified here also suggests that the demonstration effects of successful coups in the region may increase the likelihood of further coups in the near term, unless coups are seen and addressed as part of a much deeper systemic crisis, leadership and governance deficit that continues to plague the continent. Without a holistic approach, democratic performance will likely continue to plummet, with varying manifestations, as it has for the past 4 consecutive years. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, like, comment, and why not share it with your network. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video on some of the craziest things about Africa.